Hi again, and welcome to the second part of my video on how to change deep-rooted subconscious limiting beliefs. Now, on last week's video, we uncovered what limiting beliefs are and where they come from. So if you haven't watched that one yet, I highly recommend that you pause now, go and watch that one, and then come back to this one. So today you're going to discover how to change these deep-rooted subconscious limiting beliefs for good. So be gone the limiting beliefs. So if you have thoughts like, rich people are greedy, rich people are damned to hell, I'm not good enough, I inherited fat genes, I'm destined to be fat, I'm destined to be single. These are nothing but deep-rooted limiting beliefs that are implanted in your subconscious mind since you were a kid. And many times it's just not your fault. You may have just witnessed a benign situation and as a little 4-year-old or a 5-year-old interpreted it a certain way and then get stored that as a belief. So if you can relate to any of this, I want you to ask yourself these 6 very important questions. So the first question is, do you find that things don't always work out for you? Next question is, do you find that you often appear to be blocked or constantly sabotaged when you're striving for a goal? So the next one is, look at past situations that can relate to this subject. Can you see any patterns? Next question is, when was the last time that you felt upset about something, and why did you feel upset? Next question is, do you experience the same challenge over and over again? And do the same things create an emotional rise for you? Now, if you answered yes to any of these questions, chances are you have a deep-seated limiting belief that could be holding you back from achieving anything that you set your mind to. Now, I highly recommend that you first ask yourself these questions and then take about 15 minutes to sit in silence or to meditate and just sit with the questions for a while and go inside. Because the events that sparked these deep limiting beliefs are so deep in your subconscious mind that meditation or just being silent and just being introspective can really help to tap into that. Now, don't worry if it takes a few sessions to do this, because we've got to get past our ego, we've got to get past our conscious mind. Okay, remember that our ego has taken ownership of our current behaviors and beliefs, and it could be kind of a little tricky to navigate around that. So, when you do these, quiet times or this meditation, have pen and paper next to you so that you can actually, when, insights come through, that you can actually write them down on the spot. Now, after Linda, who's an NLP practitioner, helped me to clear my limiting belief, I had so many thoughts flooding into my mind of all the patterns and all the thoughts that I'd adopted since I was a kid that I was completely unaware of. It was like this domino effect. I'm like, this is why I thought this, and this is why I did this, and it was like boom, 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 boom. I'm like, oh my God. Now, I confronted many of my patterns, and here are just a couple examples of what I did. So the first one was every time my ex-husband, he was my husband at the time, but my ex-husband Glenn and I had any kind of discussion about money, I'd find myself either trying to avoid the conversation or trying to change the subject, or saying, money isn't that important. So I was discounting the value of money. And the other thing is that when money was tight, I would either choose to not think about it, try to avoid it, or I procrastinate about doing anything proactive to help the situation. And I hoped that it would just magically sort itself out, and if I just put all the bills and everything in a little tray on the desk, and then magically they just fix themselves. I mean, that was not a good plan. Now my pattern was to avoid anything that was kind of negative around the topic of money, or for money in general. But now, and today, my thoughts are things like, I can easily pay this bill, or I feel fantastic paying this bill, or I'm grateful that I get to pay this bill. I love shopping because I can afford the things that I want. I have the freedom to choose what I want. When I make a decision about wanting to travel or wanting to do anything, money's never a factor in my decision because I know I always have enough. I know that money's abundant, So these are really feel-good thoughts, right? So how do we rid ourselves of our limiting beliefs? Well, look, there is a 4-step process that we need to do that. Step number 1 is that we want to become aware of what these thoughts are. So the best way that we can do this is to set ourselves a goal. And it could be in any area of our life. But I found that when we are unaware of the negative thoughts that are holding us back, the only way that we can become more aware is by challenging them. So when we set ourselves a goal, it's like, okay, I want to get to this particular point, and you start to take action and you start to visualize yourself already there and feeling what it's like to already be there. Then you'll find that even though you're trying to think positive thoughts that are in alignment with the goal that you want, you'll find that it'll be really obvious when these negative thoughts come up. So when they do, you want to start writing them down. Because when we can get them out of our head and get them onto paper and see them in the light of day, it's like, right. And sometimes it's shocking. You're like, really? I've been thinking that thought for how long? It can be really shocking to see all of that. So make sure you write them down, become aware of what they are. The other indication that we have some kind of deep programming that we can become aware of is when we get triggered really easy. So when you have a excessive emotional response to something, you say if you're in a conversation with someone or some situation comes up and you just blow up, or you get really hurt or whatever that is, okay, that's a big sign that maybe there is some kind of programming there or some kind of past experience that is holding you back. Okay, so that's a fantastic opportunity to go, okay, let me look a little bit deeper in here, like dig a little bit deeper. Where is this coming from? Why do I feel this way? And for me, I can always go back to a childhood experience, a childhood environment, maybe something that happened, and go, right, I can see where this is coming from. So step number one is really become aware of what these are, get them onto paper. The second step is to release the energy around it. Now we want to release the energy and get this out, because sometimes we can get really mad that like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been thinking these things for so long. And you can do this by some kind of physical exertion. So you can, do like some, punching like a punching bag. You can go for a run. You can, scream. You can just like have a little tantrum. Whatever that is, when you're thinking about that and focusing on that, there's normally some pent up emotion and energy that's stuck in our body, which is related to it. So if we can like think about that and talk about it and get that out of us, then that is a really healthy thing to do. And we also want to do is be able to set a strong intention to release those limiting beliefs. So we want to get the energy out, and then when we do that, we need to set a strong intention that we're going to release those limiting beliefs. And we have to be committed to it. Because remember, these thoughts we've been thinking for a really long time, depending on how old we are. And so we have to overcome these thoughts. We have to create new neural pathways. And it's going to take a bit of effort to do that. It's going to take some time to do that. So we just want to make sure that we set that intention and go, here is the line in the sand. From now on, I'm choosing to release these beliefs. The third step, and this is an interesting one, and this is forgiveness. Now, sometimes we can look back, and especially if we can tie these particular beliefs back to an incident where someone was mean to us, when someone hurt us, and when we can look at that, we need to be in a place of forgiveness. Now, this is not forgetting, this is not excusing, and this is not for the benefit of the other person in that situation. Forgiveness is so that you can release further the energy that you have around this, so that you're no longer allowing this past event to be able to affect your future. So we want to forgive the other person. That could be from a place of, understanding and having empathy for why they may have said what they did. It could be, one of the most powerful things I did for forgiveness was to write a letter to the 12-year-old version of my parents. That was powerful, because you're understanding that their childhood programming is what influenced them to show up how they did in that moment. And again, you have an understanding, you're not forgetting, but you are being able to forgive them for that misdeed. Now, the other person that we may need to forgive is ourselves. We can get to a point where we understand that, oh my God, really? I've been thinking this all this time, and this is what's held me back. then we start to pile on and beat ourselves up. Okay, that's not helping anyone. So we may need to get to a place of forgiveness for ourselves and understand that this wasn't our fault. This is part of our, developmental stage, especially when it comes to our brains, that we understand how it happened, why it happened. But in a way, it's like freeing, because it's like, I understand where this came from and it's not really me. And now I can forgive myself for that. Then the last step, and this is the most important step, because we can decide that we can look at that list of all those negative thoughts and go, okay, that's it. I'm not thinking these anymore. But unless we know what, or choose what we're going to replace those thoughts with, or replace those bad behaviors with, then what happens is that even though we were trying to release them, nature abhors a vacuum. And if we have nothing that we've already pre-thought or pre-planned to be able to replace that with, then we kind of go back to our default habits and our default thoughts. So when you're in a good place, when you're in a high vibration, when you're in a happy mood, look at that list of negative thoughts and decide beforehand what thoughts you're going to replace that past programming with. Okay, so if something's like, one of your past programs was, rich people are greedy, then you can change that with, rich people can be very generous. Or when I'm rich, I'm going to be very generous. So really decide what that is. Now, it's going to take a little bit of time for you to be able to adopt these new thoughts. It's going to take some time because we've been thinking these other ones for about 40 years. So this is a little trick that my girlfriend Lisa Thomas had told me, and which is perfect in this situation. So when you catch yourself, which you will, thinking a thought that you want to release, just stop and go, cancel, cancel, cancel. Only love exists here. Now, by doing that, you're stopping yourself in your track. It's a little bit of a pattern interrupt for that thought. You're giving yourself a moment to collect yourself and to remind yourself of what you are replacing that negative thought with, and then start to go into that new thought pattern. And you will be amazed that after, it doesn't take that long, but once you're aware and you'll be able to, already know what you're replacing it with, it's really not that long before you can replace those old programming with really new empowering thoughts that are going to help you create the life of your dreams. All right, now before you go, if you would like to go even deeper into this subject, Mary Morrissey and I actually have an upcoming masterclass where we're going to be teaching you how to become aware of your limiting beliefs and going to teach you effective techniques on how to overcome them. My masterclass is free, and if you'd like to register, you can just click on the link in the description below to reserve your free spot. And I'd also like to know if you found this video helpful and if there's any other topic that you'd like me to cover next time. If you do have something, please share below. My name is Natalie Ledwell. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.